Join my Discord for a chance to be in my next mega build battle. Today, we are going to be doing another mega build battle. Hold up. What? Why are there blue tall people? That means the build battle is going to be themed around the film Avatar. We are going to have 6 people building, including myself, so 7 people in total. We are each going to be given an 8x8 squared off area to build in. As you can see, we have all changed into outfits related to the film, except me, so let me change real quick. Ooh, there we go! Much better. Let's take a look at the rules. You must build a bedroom themed around the film Avatar. No time limit, only build in the given 8x8 space, and most importantly, be creative. I've already given everyone co-owners, so I think we are ready to go. Remember, it's all up to you to choose who you think the best, so make sure to watch till the end and say your favorite build down below in the comments. Let's go into build mode! Everyone will be choosing their plot by coloring a square. Now that everyone has claimed their square, we are ready to go. Ready, set, build! Let's get started. So my idea for this quote-unquote bedroom, these builds kind of didn't really 100% turn out looking like bedrooms, but at least they had like a hammock or a bed in them because avatars don't really have a bedroom. So basically my idea for my build is that I'm going to be remaking the big tree that the avatars live in the forest. The forest avatars basically. Over here is where it's going to be. I'm starting out by building the base. It was quite challenging to make this because this was the first time I was using rods to make a realistic looking tree, but it was a lot of fun and I loved how it turned out at the very ending. So you gotta watch till the end. So here I am making a bunch of branches and the roots of the tree and just getting started. Here I am using wooden planks. This is basically just to fill in the gaps that the rods won't be actually filling in, and I'll be using some planks because it fills up more area. Now I go in and add a little bit of foliage, which are basically the leaves. I use some vines hanging down and I put them a bunch around, and then to cover up the pots of these vines, I use this like green, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a bush and it looks like an actual tree. I was so surprised how it turned out like that. I really liked it, so I kept doing it for a few more branches, and then I continue adding onto the tree because this tree has to be huge. It has to be the main attraction of the whole entire build that I'm going to be doing. As you can see here, I'm building it taller and taller. My goal was to have it at least 2 floors in size because that's basically the amount of building space we could use. And so that is what I'm going to be doing with the branches. I'm also trying to make them look as realistic as possible, but also make it like a big tree that the avatars could actually live in. Just like I started earlier, here I am adding some wooden planks. This is to fill up the gaps and also build a base for this huge tree, because with a huge tree, you want a big base of the tree or else the tree would literally flop over. And then later on, I am going to be making it look more realistic because these wooden slabs or wooden planks don't make it look like an actual tree because trees aren't flat. So later on, I go in with rods and I make it more detailed, looking like an actual tree. So don't worry. I am almost done done with the tree, I'm filling in some gaps inside of it, and now I'm going to be trying to make the top look more realistic because it kind of just looks like there's a bunch of wooden planks on a tree and it doesn't make quite any sense. So I'm adding in a few more branches to make it look more natural and better looking, I guess. Once I was done with that, now I'm going into all the branches that I could find and I think fit right in order to add in some foliage of leaves and drooping vines onto the tree. In the tree that the avatars live in, they have huge roots that go all around the trees, all the way up to the top, and basically that's where they live in. It's kind of like a pathway leading to the top of the tree, if that's what you want to say. So I am doing my best to replicate at least one of those spirals because I thought it would be a cute addition of being able to go all the way up to the tree and having access to it. So I use these rods in order to make that pathway using the texture of bark. Here I am finishing off the spiral. Now here I am over here adding a stone pathway, and I end up coloring it into a dirt texture because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do at the moment, but I just added some dirt. Another big thing for Pandora and actually the avatars is the Tree of Souls, which they call Iwa or Awa. I forgot how they pronounced it, but you know what I mean if you watch the film. Basically, the tree's ability is it's being capable of directly connecting to the human nervous system by physical contact with its extended root fibers. And this tree is very sacred to the Navi people and their tribe. So I wanted to, of course, include it in my build. It was one of the most important things. So I decided to pick a back corner because I have that tree already in the center. So I'm having this one in a corner over here, but it's still going to be of huge importance. I'm also building some roots on the ground because in the film, you see that the tree is huge and roots are basically growing on the ground. And it's just so beautiful. So basically, that's what I'm doing here. And then later on, of course, I'm going to give it its purple color. As promised, I color the tree some purple lilac colors, and then I extend some of the vines so some are more drooping down and everything like that. And a big thing of this tree is that if you connect it to like the end of your hair for the avatars, it gave you a connection to the world. So it had a lot of like loose magical strings, I guess I want to call them. So I use these garlands to replicate that type of feel for it. It doesn't look as magical, but I really liked how it turned out, so I kept going and I added a bunch of them. And yes, as I said, magical. That's a big thing in Pandora. So I wanted to add these string lights attaching it to the garlands because it gave it that neon colory type of feel that in the film this tree actually has. And I kept adding some string lights all over along with the garlands. Now, because this is a quote-unquote bedroom build battle, what I wanted to do is at least have a one bed in this bedroom, kind of. So I decided to make my very own like DIY bed over here with rods and also some pillars and of course a floating bed. But I then used these planks to give it like a little hut type of roofing, kind of. Of course, I add in some pillows. My favorite thing added into Bloxburg are these like custom pillows. They make each and every bed look so much more realistic, and I love how you can customize it. And then I go on to coloring the bed. I decided to go with some nature green type of colors because since these avatars live in a forest type of theme, I thought the green was only fitting to the environment. I was so inspired and excited by my build. I was like, I gotta make a custom carpet too. So I used these very thin wooden beams. It gave a lot of detail to this carpet, so I ended up liking how it turned out. Now in this corner over here, I'm going to be building something from the second film. So heads up, I don't know, kind of spoilers, but not really. So over here, basically the sea people, because the second film of Avatar is The Way of Water, sea people have these huts above water, and I wanted to do my best to recreate that in order to incorporate both the first and second film inside of my build at the same time. So over here is like a tightrope that's going to be connecting both of the huts together, and now I am also going to be quote-unquote attempting to rebuild the huts. I didn't have enough space to put down actual walls, so I end up using wooden planks, as you will see pretty soon. Here is going to be the outline of the second hut, and now I start building it as I said before. I know the huts look kind of messy. The ones in the film are more aesthetic, but I didn't have any other way of building the hut a lot nicer. So I ended up doing something that looks like this, and it looks like a bunch of wooden planks put together. That's basically what it is. I'll admit that. I go on to finishing up the second hut, which I already had an outline for. Here I am adding a bunch of planks, basically remaking what I did on the other side with the other hut. Here I am adding in a roofing. Some of the gaps are basically made so there can be quote-unquote natural lighting and kind of look like windows. I couldn't add like actual windows because it's not actual walls and just planks, but I did my best to make it represent some windows and have some natural lighting so it doesn't look like the hut is like dark and gloomy and very sad. For the second hut, I also wanted to add in this like tight wire rope thing over here because you had to get up into the second hut without like falling into the water, and I just added it from some extra decoration, and I think it looked pretty nice. Now So building off of the second movie, along with the huts for like the sea people, I wanted to make an underwater portion, and this underwater place will be representing the second movie. So I added a bunch of custom shapes to put underneath the water in order to place things on top. And now I'm building a big spiral underwater, and it's going to be colored into a stone rock type of thing so that it can represent, I don't know, like underwater coral reefs kind of. And now I'm going to be decorating this spiral with some leaves and some plants and whatever else I think will look nice and make it more look like an underwater type of coral reefing. Yes, that's the vibe I'm going for. This process of adding plants on this type of rock for the spiral was a pain. I had to do each one individually, remove the pillar, put a different one, remove the pillar, resize it and whatnot. It was very annoying to do, but I did it because I wanted to be extra. And so I'm going to be skipping ahead because that took a long time to do. Basically, for this whole entire build, I use a bunch of very neon and bright colors because it reminds me of magic, and basically Pandora is a very magical place. For each of these walls, I'm going to be adding in these vines just so it decorates the place more, and then I'm going to be coloring them a neon color and just like really bright colors, as I was saying earlier, because that's what Pandora is. Here I have added in some garlands to represent some vines and seaweed underwater and to give extra decoration and detail, of course. I also go on to add in a bunch of transparent decals. This is for me to add underwater creatures and the mystical creatures that they actually had in the film, such as some fish. I'm going to also add an image of an elu and the kolkum, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is the whale in the second film. And then I go along adding in more plants and more colorful things just to fit the theme of this underwater type of decoration that I'm doing. Once I finished up with the underwater part of it, I went back above water onto the main floor of what I was building. I go to the bed part and I add in a bunch of vines that I had in this purple tree or iwa, and I wanted the bed to make it seem like it was actually supposed to be there and that the tree engulfed it and it became one with the tree basically. So I'm going to be adding in these rods to make it look like the bed is being consumed by the tree and to make it look less out of place and blended into the rest of the build. So I'm using these rods to replicate branches of a tree and add in a bunch of garlands like I have on the actual tree and some vines so everything looks like it's supposed to fit in. Now I'm returning back onto the pathway. I decided to add in leaf piles, and these leaf piles are colored this very bright blue or teal color because in the film the jungle was colored these teal colors on the floor as a pathway just all around the forest, and I thought it made it look a lot more magical, so I decided to recolor these dirt piles that I had into this teal color that I did with the leaves. I'm adding in a few decals that I think would represent some of the plants that they had in Pandora. They were very magical looking, so I added in some decals of it, as I said. And here I'm going to be basically going around the whole entire spiral of this main tree. I'm going to be adding in some plants and basically replicating what I did underwater, but now above water with some flowers and mushrooms, and to make it look like the whole entire spiral is supposed to be there, is magical. The tree is full of nature, and that was the theme I was going for. I also go around the tree, add in a few more rods to make the tree look more realistic and not just like planks of wood around the whole entire build and not look like an actual tree. So I used thicker rods, thinner rods to make it look more real. I also did add a hammock inside of one of the huts because it is a bedroom build battle kind of. So I needed to have at least another bedroom for like the sea people to live inside of their homes of the huts. I then go back onto the spiral, adding in more plants, more flowers, and whatever else I think would look good and fit the style that I was going for. I then decided to take a break of adding in those plants all over the spiral, and I wanted to make this more kind of like a bedroom feel, but also matching the theme of Avatar. So I decided to add in a dresser and connect the branches from the actual bed onto the dresser and make the dresser look like it was supposed to be there. It was supposed to be attached to this tree. And I also decided to add in a mirror because, you know, if you have a dresser, you need a mirror. And then I decorated the dresser with having some books on top of it, some perfumes, and just like placemats, whatever I could find just to fill up the area and make it look pretty. To add on to the detail of the dresser, I also attached some of these rope strings and had garlands all over the dresser, branches, so it would look like it was a part of the tree just like I did for the bed. I then decided to also add in a small carpet design at the bottom because it's a bedroom, of course, you need a carpet, and it just looked really nice. As you can tell from chat, I opened up my Bloxburg neighborhood server for some fans to join and watch me build while I was recording so they could be a part of it. So basically over here in this corner, I'm going to be building a waterfall, but not any type of waterfall. It's gonna be realistic. So here I have some vines to represent like plants coming out of the rock. I also use some custom shapes in order to stack these rocks and use the plants and the vines to make it all look pretty. You're going to see how I do it, but I really liked how it turned out. It looked really good. I'm like hyping myself up saying it looks good. What if you hate it? JK, you won't hate it. It looks good. You gotta admit. Time to add in the waterfall, you could see I was struggling over here. Apparently you can't place a tall waterfall on custom shapes, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's not working. Like I said it in chat and people are like, you got this, Panda, you got this. So I was like, okay, what's the second thing I can use instead of this tall waterfall? I could use an actual pre-built waterfall, include what I already made with the rocks and the vines, and just make it look like it's supposed to be there. Also wanted to at least add one decal of Pandora, or like these sky rocks that the airplane's basically flying through, and where they got like the dragon that flies or whatever. So I got one of the decals, I put it above the rocks, and I thought it fit perfectly because it's like a rock waterfall right here and just like rocks on top. And now I enclosed the whole entire bedroom in some walls, and now I'm going to be adding in a bit of other decoration, which are basically floating rocks like the image shows, but I'm going to be building it in Bloxburg with actual rocks that are going to be floating. Now with the rocks, I wanted to have some type of like hanging vines from it, but it wasn't quite turning out how I liked it. It looked very fake. So I decided to go on and attach all the rocks with these rod vines. I did that for all the rocks inside of the build, and then I deleted the hanging like disaster things that were there before. But now what I'm going to be adding is a bunch of like vines around the rocks to make it kind of look abandoned and messy and like part of nature. Once I finished that, I also wanted a floating part of grass on top of the rocks. I know it was quite literally floating for some of the rocks, but there was no way. The rocks are rounded. It was difficult to make it look flat. But I added a patch of grass on top of the rocks so it would look like these rocks are like, I don't know, actual islands, I guess. But that's what I did. I added rocks on top of the rocks and colored it in grass. Yes, okay. That was confusing. So sorry for that. And now after I did that, I decided to add in some decoration of plants that I used around my build just so these floating island rocks would match and have decoration too, because them plain didn't quite sit right with me. After that, I found a brilliant idea on how to have hanging vines from them. I would actually put down the potted vines and then I would cover it with one of these bushes like I did for the tree jungle part of my build. And I think it looked really good. So I basically redid that for all the rocks all around, adding in decorations, making them look like they're supposed to be part of the build and just making them look really good. Decided to add in some fog machines because in the rocks, the floating rocks, they actually have this type of like misty air to it. So I added in fog machines and I thought it looked really good for this build. I also decided to add in a shower inside of one of these waterfalls because it is a bedroom build battle and you were allowed to build a bathroom inside of it. And now I'm going to be making this type of like waterfall dripping into the pond, into the water. I don't know. So I used rods and colored it like water. And now on this other side, I'm going to be creating a second waterfall, kind of like the one I made on the opposite wall. And I'm just going to be putting in a bunch of rocks and some vines just so everything matches. Now, around the empty spaces on the wall over here, right above the waterfall, I'm deciding to also add in another tree that I'm going to be making with rods. And then I'm going to be using the floating carpet method in order to add foliage to the tree so that it actually has some leaves. In addition to the tree that I made, I'm going going to be making another one, but on this wall right next to the entrance of the room because it was empty and I had no idea what else to add. So why not add my very own tree like I did to the waterfall wall? I'm going to be doing the same idea over here, basically adding in foliage with the floating carpet method and adding in some leaves and bushes so it can look like an actual realistic tree. I'm adding in some roots to the tree so it connects to the ground, but also gives some extra detail and it takes up space because I didn't want any part of this bedroom to be empty. I'm adding in these ropes that are colored into a grass type of texture and green so that I can represent some vines and give extra detail to the tree, and I thought it was a cool addition to have. To fill up this corner, I added in some rocks, and I'm also adding in some plants all over the build, not just in this corner. Also using some decal plants that I made so I could have a three-dimensional type of plants. And also these decals I uploaded give it a more avatar type of a world look idea, I think. So I really like the decals and I included them. Adding in some final touches to the bedroom. Here I'm going to be adding in some decals that I have made myself, adding in some mystical looking plants like mushrooms around my build, some flowers, and whatever else I found and I thought would look nice. To decorate the second hut with something because the first one had a hammock and a hammock didn't quite fit in this one because it's a lot tighter than the other one. So I decided to add in like a toddler or play kitchen. It's not an actual kitchen that works, so don't say I broke my own build battle rules. But over here I am also adding a big decal. I know it looks like mushrooms right now, but I will change it into a bow and arrows because avatars in the film use a lot of bows, so I decided to add in a decal of it itself. Also go back and add in a bit more rods to the actual tree in the middle because it didn't look as realistic as I wanted it to, and these rods made it seem like it was an actual tree instead of the wooden flat planks on the tree. Because some of the walls were also a bit empty, I decided to go ahead and add some windows, but I colored them to the rock coloring of the rest of the walls so that they would blend in nicer. I kind of liked how they turned out, so I kept it. Here I am adding in a glass roof because it also gives natural lighting and I wouldn't have to add extra lights onto the bedroom itself. And speaking of lighting, I did go ahead and went around with some hanging light colored in mystical magical colors such as like yellow, pink, blues, purples, and added them around the tree just for some extra color and decoration. Here I'm extending the branches of the tree that I made on the wall just so it incorporates the window that I just added, so it doesn't feel misplaced and it feels like it's supposed to be part of the build. I also then go in with some purple vines to incorporate the style of the purple tree that is on that wall because it is all connected, so these vines and garlands just tie it all up in one. As I said earlier, with some lighting, here I am adding in some more fairy lights with those mystical colors that I spoke about to the trees that I made just because it made it seem more magical and more like a Pandora type of tree. And then I go in, add in some finishing touches with some plants, different colors, neon colors, whatever else that I felt was missing. For the huts, I even went back and added in some curtains with using some custom rods in order to color them into a transparent color and have them just decorate the windows so it wouldn't be too empty. After I finish up this window, we are pretty much done. Now it's your favorite time and mine. It is tour time! the builds of this mega build battle. Make sure to join my Discord server for a chance to be in my next one.